Welcome, trainers, to our final route of the season, as we complete the Gen 2 games and head to our final competitor in Mount Silver. My name is Chris, I'm the last trainer, and I'm playing Pokemon Crystal. I am also joined by my two fellow co-hosts.
My name is Sean, I'm the Fire Breather trainer, and I'm playing Pokemon Gold.
And my name is Dustin, I'm the Gentleman trainer, and I'm playing Pokemon Silver.
And we are known as the Trainer Trio.
In our last episode, we ventured back to the Kanto region and managed to acquire the first 4 Kanto badges. In this episode, we're going to collect the other 4 badges, which includes going to Fuschia City, Diglett's Cave, Pewter City, Mount Moon, visiting our old hometown, Pallet Town, Cinnabar Island, Viridian City, and there may be a little cleanup we do before going to Mount Silver to face our final competitor.
Very exciting. I can't wait.
Yep, the home stretch.
Sean, does that sound like you're a little happy to be finishing this?
Oh, I am very happy to be finishing this, which I'm sure we'll be explaining. Especially the very end of Johto felt very much like a slog, and I'm very much looking forward to what we have in the future, is all I'll say.
You could probably tell just from our previous episode, there's quite a few points where we're all just a little bit disappointed. So I guess just heading right into it. You head into the cycling route from Saffron City, and we're heading now down to Fuschia City. Hopefully I said it right this time. It was interesting because I thought in between generations, they had at least updated where all of the trainers were still on motorcycles on this route. Why are they not on bicycles? I just felt it was awkward that you're on a cycle just walking down this route with all these biker dudes hanging out.
Yeah, these games are sometimes a little too faithful.
And there's only 4 trainers on this route too, which it felt like really empty. I don't know how many trainers there were in the first generation, but definitely was more than 4.
What? You're saying that the Kanto part of Johto felt empty?
Have we heard that anywhere before? I don't know. Might be a new revelation.
That's all I have of cycling route.
My only note was that the Pokemon are starting to somewhat get to your level now in the wild. So like level 28, 26. Isn't much, but it's a lot higher than all the other Pokemon we've been seeing.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can't remember if this is the first time this happens, but you do have access to Slugma in this route. I don't know if any of you guys caught a Slugma or have seen one before, but this may be the first encounter of one.
Ooh, I haven't caught one yet.
So then this could be another instance of good Gen 2 Pokemon locked behind the Kanto wall.
Quite a stretch to call Slugma a good Pokemon, Chris.
Hey, I like Slugma and Murkrow, even though a little unorthodox there. I'll agree.
Chris liking the unorthodox Pokemon. Who would have seen that?
I can't wait for your pick in Gen 3, Season 3. But yeah, it is interesting because there are quite a few Pokemon that they did just introduce in Gen 2, and they are locked behind the Kanto wall. And I'm wondering if there were some people who didn't even decide to complete Kanto and just never saw those Pokemon. I know me and Sean, we really started in the 3rd generation, so we didn't even realized they were probably Gen 2 Pokemon until much later.
Honestly, Slugma was one of those Pokemon that I just assumed was a Gen 3 Pokemon.
Getting into how I pronounce it, Fuschia City. What's there to say about Fuschia City? So, if you guys remember, in Generation 1, this was home to the Safari Zone, and I hope you guys were not ready to go catch some Pokemon because the Warden has left on a trip and the Safari Zone has been shut down.
So strange. Here we are in Kanto, and there's a previous feature just not able to access anymore. I feel like that might have happened once or twice already.
And like you would think that there'd be more than just one employee at the Safari Zone that could take over. But no, if he's gone, he has to shut the whole thing down.
Has to shut the whole thing down, but don't you worry, guys. You still have to go all the way around the city, around fences, to get to the gym and the Poke Center. So that's still there.
There's so much that could have been here. A great idea, but just horrible execution is so sad with the Kanto portion. Is how I feel. You know, the concept of there being 2 regions in one game sounds so cool. But when it's executed like this, why even waste the time on this? They should have just spent the time making Johto better if, I don't know, there's just a lot of missed opportunities out here. It feels like that love and care could have made just the normal Johto experience much more enjoyable than what we got, because now we have a very empty Kanto that we have to explore.
Another instance of this. Did you guys go south to Route 19 at all at this point in the game?
I don't remember.
See, you can. And this is skipping ahead just a little bit. But when I wanted to go to Cinnabar Island, I just decided, oh, okay, I can just go south through Route 19 and swim. I don't know why, but if you have not already been to Route 20, so if you've not gone around the other day and surfed your way back up to Fuschia City, then it will say that the route is under construction for renovations and you will be walled off from going that way.
What?
I'm not joking. I'm looking at the picture of it in Bulbapedia just to make sure that I wasn't going crazy, but I don't know why they did that, but they did.
Lock us out even more.
So you couldn't go to the south.
Otherwise, there are some mentions of a new gym leader. Janine is how I'm going to pronounce that.
Sounds right.
Apparently, you get first hint of what's the gym going to be like at the Pokemon Center. If you talk to one of the NPCs, they say they can turn into someone that looks just like the gym leader. And then they do a little twirl, and they look just like, I guess, at this point, Janine.
I didn't even see that. That's pretty cool.
I guess let's just head straight into the gym because I don't think there's much else to do in Fuschia City. Once you go inside, this is where you do realize all the trainers look the same, just like Janine, and it's the same puzzle, invisible walls. How did you guys fare in this gym?
Like I said last time, the only reason I'm able to do this puzzle so well is because of muscle memory, because I've done it so many times, and they didn't really change it up this time. I mean, the visible walls was fine, and then it's just talking to everyone until you eventually find her.
Did you guys go through all the trainers before reaching the gym leader?
So, I'll just be honest, I didn't realize I was fighting Janine until I beat her, because I thought she was a random trainer. But then I was thinking as I was going through, I'm like, wow, this is a lot of Pokemon for a random trainer. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, that was Janine. Okay.
Similar story to Sean, except I realized I was fighting Janine just about 2 seconds before it started because, yeah, everyone is dressed up as Janine. So I kept talking to different people. And then all of a sudden she said, haha, I'm the real Janine. And I was not ready to fight yet. And I did fine. I think I still used my Espeon, which knows Psychic at this point. And Janine has all poison type Pokemon. So I breezed through it. I just was caught really off guard, which, hey, I'll give the game some strategy for that. I've never been caught off guard fighting a gym leader before. So kudos.
That's true. Like, I was trying to train against all the trainers, but I did end up missing 2 of them because I accidentally found Janine. And her Pokemon party consists of Crobat, level 36, Venomoth, level 39, Weezing, 36, well, 2 Weezings at level 36, and then an Ariados at 33. So she does have a couple Johto Pokemon, which is cool, but very weak overall.
Yeah, very low leveled.
I think some of her strategies could have been a little better. Like that Venomoth isn't horrible, knowing Toxic, Double Team, Supersonic, and Psychic. It just so low leveled that I think you can get past her so easily.
No, I just used my Slowking, that new Psychic, and that was too easy.
I got some usage out of Heracross in this battle to win the gym. And afterwards, you do receive the Soul Badge and TM06 Toxic, which I believe, is that the same one that we earned against Koga back in Gen 1?
I believe so.
It was.
So still receiving the same, which is cool, but I have no one to give it to.
Oh, I have someone to give it to.
Me too.
Whoa, gonna be exciting to find out.
We go out east because now we're going to circle around to go to Diglett's Cave. Still a very long route around here. A lot of trainers, but still nothing really memorable, at least from my experience from this area. I don't know if you guys have a different story of what happened around here.
So, talking to one of the NPCs, if you do notice, like some of the gyms that we fought against in Kanto, we still receive some buffs, like some better attack or defense. I forget exactly which one. But one of the NPCs did mention that like having the Kanto badges will help you in Link battles. It is kind of interesting how if you were playing in person in Link battles, still having these gyms, you would have an advantage over someone who just beat Johto.
Is that reason enough to go through Kanto though? I don't know.
The only thing I noted about Route 15 was that all of the trainers are either schoolboys or teachers, which I thought was kind of cute. meaning that the teachers were taking their schoolboys on field trips to the Safari Zone, only to figure out that it's closed. And then even one of them had a Xatu and an Alakazam, not that high level in the 30s, but kind of impressive.
That's a good team. I do have a note here too. You can trade a Chansey for an Aerodactyl.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. And I had no idea how to get a Chansey, but if I could have, I would have considered doing it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I didn't do this at this point. Do you want me to talk about capturing Chansey?
I know it took me forever in Gen 1, so I'm wondering how you ended in Gen 2.
Okay, I decided that I wanted to be the Pokemon hunter. And guess what? You can catch Chansey in this generation, but it is a 1% encounter rate in Route 15. So it's in Route 14 as well, still only at a 1% encounter rate. So what you can do to make life a little easier is you can play at certain times of the day where you fight lower level Pokemon, and then you can use a repel so that you're only finding the Chansey at its level. The only unfortunate part is that you're going to run into a couple others. So I was running into a level 28 Chansey, but I also had a 10% chance of finding a Hoppip, a 9% of a Skiploom, etc. So I made my odds just a little better by doing this strategy, but let me tell you, it was not easy to find this 1% Chansey. I probably had to find 25 Pokemon before Chansey showed up. Chansey shows up, and do you guys know what moveset Chansey has?
No.
Nope.
Okay, Chansey is a pain in the butt. It can't really hurt you that much because it knows Double Slap, but it knows Soft Boil, it knows Minimize. It is so hard to whittle down this Chansey's health because, don't forget, Chansey also has a very low catch rate, a catch rate of 30, which is one of the highest, or should I say lowest, in the game. So it's hard to catch Chansey, it's hard to whittle down its HP, and guess what? The first time I faced it, I knocked it out because I used a physical move and just swept it. So I spent...
Oh, no.
I know. So I spent another 20 minutes finding another Chansey and taking 10 minutes battling it to whittle down its HP as it keeps using Soft Boil to get it back. I caught Chansey. But I believe this is the hardest Pokemon to catch in Generation 2 that is catchable. I mean, we're not talking the legendary dogs or anything, because 1% encounter rate, hard to whittle down its HP, low catch rate, and just such finicky stats that you have such a high level of knocking it out. So yes, you can trade a Chansey on that route if you're crazy enough to catch one, but if you are crazy enough to catch one, you can get an Aerodactyl, which is very cool.
Well, at least it doesn't have the fleeing mechanic, because that would make it extremely annoying.
If that was the case, I think I would have broken my game.
Oh, boy.
Well, Chris, did you feel satisfied after you caught yourself that Chansey?
No, not really.
I love how difficult they made it to capture Chansey in this game. And also, if you want to try and capture Chansey in the first generation inside of the Safari Zone. Because I had a similar experience with Chris where I spent probably 2 hours just trying to capture a Chansey there. So they really like to make it difficult.
What makes it even sadder is that Chansey gets an evolution in this game. It gets Blissey. But this is the first time you can catch a Chansey, and you need to level up Blissey with Friendship. So there's really no scenario where this would even make any sense. So such an interesting Pokemon like Blissey doesn't even get any use because it's impossible to get one, essentially.
That's exactly what I was going to mention, that most people, by this point of the game, they're not going to put that effort into trying to get a Chansey because they don't even think that there's an evolution, so they don't have any idea that there's a cool new Pokemon. It just doesn't make sense to get because it's too difficult and too late.
I think if you would have put Chansey as a 1% encounter somewhere in the middle of Johto, that would have been much better than the way they handled it. Anyways, that was my dramatic story of catching Chansey.
Further going into Route 15, I do have one additional note where you do meet the fishing guru's younger brother who gives you a super rod. And I was surprised because you're getting the super rod this late in the game. You pretty much could have already caught most of the water Pokemon. So there's no real use, at least I found, with the super rod, but I was not really being the Pokemon hunter this generation.
Save your sanity.
The thing with all of this, it would be excusable if Kanto actually had stuff to explore and reason for you to use new Pokemon, to find new Pokemon that are actually around your level. But it doesn't. So it just feels empty doing all this work to get new Pokemon when the game's basically over. There's not really much other than fighting gyms. And at that point, you're just going to use the Pokemon you already used in Johto.
Right? Even if you made Chansey level 45 or something like that, maybe I consider using it on my final battle.
Well, I will say there is one Pokemon that you do find at high level in Kanto.
What's that?
That is the Snorlax. It is level 50. So I feel like it's the one Pokemon you encounter in this area that is actually worth considering putting on your team because it's a high level.
And did you guys capture Snorlax?
Yes, I did, because it's holding a very useful item, the second leftovers. If only I knew there was a first one before we did our last Pokemon battles.
Isn't that crazy that there is a second leftovers? And they're both in Kanto.
Two of the best items in the game.
And this Snorlax is pretty tough. It knows Rollout, Body Slam, Snore, and Rest. So as you try and whittle down its HP, it can rest and then use a same type attack bonus, Snore, to keep attacking you. Body Slam has a 30% chance of paralyzing you. If you let it set up Rollout, that's pretty devastating as well. So this was actually a welcome challenge, and this was pretty difficult. I actually knocked it out, I think, once before finally catching it. But Pokemon Hunter couldn't let it go.
As a retired Pokemon Hunter, I did accidentally faint it, and I did not save previously, so I just let it slide. I do not have a Snorlax.
Oh, or a second leftovers?
I do not.
Oh, no. Thank God, that is probably the hardest Snorlax we'll have to face in this game, right?
I hate you. I would just say, going back on the one Snorlax we know about, I used a heavy ball and I caught it. And I felt very satisfied that I actually used one of the balls I got from Kurt to catch a Pokemon.
Look at you using a new mechanic.
It's one of the few new balls that actually worked, I'm pretty sure, in this generation. Because all the other ones were just too wonky. They don't actually work how they say they would.
Yeah, after you told me that, I totally stopped using Kurt's Pokeballs.
But then after we catch the Snorlax, we could go through Diglett's Cave. And you could stop me, but there's nothing in Diglett's Cave. So you keep on going until...
Whoa, Sean.
What?
Sean, there's something in Diglett's Cave.
What is there in Diglett's Cave, Chris?
Diglett.
And so then you leave Diglett's Cave and you go to Route 2.
That actually is the only place you can catch a Diglett in the Gen 2 games, but you can carry on.
Yeah, I did think it's important enough to talk about. Obviously, my co-host disagreed. Moving on, you get on Route 2 right outside Pewter City. And you know, there's not much to do in Pewter City. For Pokemon Gold, I got the Silver Wing here, and I thought in the moment, oh cool, I could catch Lugia. We'll go back to that thought. But anyways, there's not much else other than that for me about Pewter City.
In Silver, I do get the Rainbow Wing.
And in Crystal, you also get the Silver Wing. If I'm remembering correctly, you had to actually talk to the NPC, correct? It wasn't just that the NPC came up to you?
You had to talk to him, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember when I was playing, I, for some reason, was playing slower and just started talking to random people. And then he just gives you a really important item. And I kept thinking, how many people missed out on legendary Pokemon because it wasn't customary for them to just talk to NPCs in random Kanto towns?
Yeah, and the whole reason he gives you this item too is just that he notices that you are from Johto. So he enjoys that he finds another person from Johto traveling throughout the Kanto region.
And if you guys were looking to go to the Pewter Museum of Science, don't you dare even go near that because it's closed for renovations.
I can't wait to see those renovations, Chris.
Why is everything under renovation? Is it like holiday in the Kanto region right now?
See, because it's just so sad. You know, if we didn't have the expectations and knew what was in Kanto, we wouldn't expect those buildings to be there. So they wouldn't have to have put stuff to explain why we couldn't access them. But here we are. So I'm going to keep on saying, just imagine if they scrapped the Kanto portion of Johto and just made Johto that much better.
Well, there's the gym here with Brock inside, and there's only one additional trainer in the gym. So quite disappointing. Brock, he does have a new team, which he has Graveler level 41, Kabutops 42, Amistar 42, Rhyhorn 41, and his prize Onyx at level 44. I do not have any notes against him. I just use my for Alligator.
My only notes on the gym was just, what a lame gym. But Brock has a cool team, though. It's cool. This is how you can see the two fossil Pokemon, because no one really had them in the last games.
Yeah, I wasn't even taking notes at this point. I mean, come on. We're facing Gravelers and Onyxes.
Not even a Golem yet.
They're very against in-game trade Pokemon, except for some reason Alakazam shows up every so often.
And Gengar.
Oh, yeah, true.
So I feel like this would have been a good example to show that Brock has really evolved, getting a Golem, but that was not the case. But you do get the Boulder Badge for being Brock, and this one does make your Pokemon more powerful. So you're one step ahead of your peers who haven't come to this side of the region yet. At this point, I was also kind of thinking throughout this whole gameplay, I never really got EXP Share yet. And I did capture some new Pokemon I want to train up. So I did look online, and you can actually get the EXP Share. Did you guys get an EXP Share?
No, I didn't. Where do you get it?
Did we not talk about this on the podcast yet?
I don't think so. I didn't have an EXP Share until just now.
No, I never got one my entire run.
Because you get something at Lake of Rage and you give it to Mr. Pokemon and he gives you the XP share, right?
Yes.
What?
You guys have been missing out.
When was the Lake of Rage episode? That was episode 4?
That was before you even beat Johto.
Episode 5. So halfway through our season, we could have gotten this. And only Chris is the one who's gotten it. He's been putting that to good use.
I'm actually shocked that I didn't mention that.
Chris!
That's on you, Chris. You should have let us know.
There's no useful application for the XP share until about now, when you can give it to a Pokemon and go through the Elite Four.
Exactly. I could have done that, Chris.
Next up, I did end up going to Mount Moon, which is on the way back to Cerulean. And inside, there is a bunch of fire breathers, including one of the best fire breathers in Kanto. So I'm surprised that was not Goldie. This is also where you have a surprise rival encounter. And to my memory, I believe this is the last time you could encounter him in the wild.
I was not prepared for it.
Me neither.
Because I was going through, and I'm pretty sure he sees you right when you walk in, right?
He does, yes.
Yeah, so that fight happens. I was not prepared, but unfortunately, he's still not the strongest. I swept him with my Ampharos, who was leading at the time. I wish I had more notes to say on that.
Yeah, it was pretty uneventful, to say the least, which is unfortunate. I think he put together a pretty strong team of Pokemon. They just weren't high enough level, and I was able to get through him pretty easily as well.
And I guess just going through his final team, he had a Sneasel level 41, Golbat 42, Magneton 41, Alakazam 43, the final starter at level 45, and Gengar 43, which surprised me because he copied my Pokemon. This is why you can't trust those guys from Vermilion City, those copycats.
Calm down, Olivine.
So, one last thing to add on your rival. You technically can rebattle him one more time. So, after the Mount Moon battle, so the very last battle that we're talking about here, your rival can be battled at the Indigo Plateau on Mondays and Wednesdays. So right when you're about to enter the Elite Four, you can rebattle him. And so at this point, he actually does have a little stronger of a team. It's the same team, except his Golbat evolves into Crobat. And so a lot of people who are defenders of your rival, if you want to call him Silver, will say that he has a lot of character growth because you have to evolve Crobat with friendship. So they're saying he learned his ways and became really friendly and treated his Pokemon right. I do think that that was somewhat intentional on the developer side, and that does not change my opinion that this rival is undercooked completely.
For you to even see that full character growth, you do have to encounter him on like a Monday and a Wednesday at the Indigo League if you even make it that far in this game. They should have made it that this final scripted encounter. So then that way everyone could have seen him, because I did not encounter him again, so I didn't even know about that until you let me know.
So if this is the last time that we're talking about your rival, I will say he is easily worse than your Gen 1 rival. I think he's one-dimensional. I think he actually will probably end up being one of my least favorite rivals in the entire series.
Yeah, not much depth with his character. But at the very least, he is still a rival at this point, which later in the Pokemon games, I don't even know if you could classify some of your rivals as rivals.
I mean, if you could even count this guy as a rival too, because I mean, he stole some Pokemon, and then most of the time he's just kind of evil and doesn't really pay attention to you. Like, there's no real reason for him to even be battling you until halfway through he decides to try and be like one of the best Pokemon trainers in the world. I didn't like him that much either, and I'm hoping to see better rivals in the future.
Me too.
Otherwise, in Mount Moon, there's also apparently a souvenir shop halfway in between. And it's only open during the day, which I never went during the day. It's only nighttime. It's just an empty building. And I thought, what is this doing here?
Yeah, I never saw that.
It's called the Mount Moon Square, and it's actually interesting how this is the one thing that they decided to add to Kanto, which, you know, they don't normally do, but it doesn't really sell anything that good. The one thing that does happen at the Mount Moon Square is every Monday, you have the ability to see a little dance by the Clefairy and then get a Moonstone. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
Nope.
Oh, that's cute.
Yay on Gen 2 for doing time-based events, and boo on Gen 2 for doing time-based events.
You know, when I was playing last generation Pokemon Yellow and we're getting towards the end, I was like, oh, can't wait to play Gen 2 because it sounds like pretty exciting with all these Pokemon you can only capture at night and in the day. But then when you actually start playing it, you feel the torture of just like, well, I can't capture all the Pokemon I want. If you go down south, you reach Viridian City, which there's not much here. The gym leader is currently out of town. And it also seems just like quite fascinating how many gym leaders can just not be in their town or in their gym. You have to go find them. It's quite amazing that anyone can get all 8 gym badges.
There is one cool thing in Viridian, which is very strange to say, but there's the trainer house. Did you guys go in there?
I did not.
You both didn't? Oh, wow. Anyways, there's this house, and it's called the trainer house. You go in, there's stairs, and you go underneath the stairs, you talk to a receptionist, and you're able to battle a trainer once a day. And if you do it, you will see that the sprite is gold. So it's yourself that you're playing. His name is Cal, and he has the 3 starters all at level 50. And so you could battle him, get some Poke Dollars. And also it's a pretty cool battle to see all 3 of his full evolution starters. I'm surprised both of you guys didn't see that. That's like the one cool thing in Kanto.
I was looking through the Pokedex entries, and Chris and I have actually not seen one of the starter Pokemon yet, which I guess this would be the one case where you'd actually be able to see a final starter that you don't encounter.
I would have assumed that the trainer school would have been under renovation.
I do have one more note of Viridian City, and this does give a little hint where an NPC says that a young man from Pallet Town became a gym leader not too long ago. So it was probably empty for nearly 3 years. So it's even more amazing that if anyone in Kanto was a Pokemon trainer at this time, you just have an 8th gym leader.
One more note I forgot to mention on Route 2, just north of Viridian City. That is the only place in the game where you can catch a Pikachu, 5% encounter rate, and you can breed that Pikachu to get a Pichu. And I think that's actually what you need to get the Thunderstone from Bill's grandfather. Pretty specific way to get a Thunderstone. And then you could use that Thunderstone to immediately evolve that Pikachu you just caught. So you have a level 4 Raichu.
That's the only stone I did not end up getting.
Otherwise, you go through Route 1, the very first route from the very first game. And there is really nothing of note. You can get a Bitterberry. You can find a Rattata and a Pidgey, just like the first game, still at level 2, just like the first game. And you can find your way back to your hometown, Pallet Town.
Oh, it's not our hometown anymore. It's our old, previous generation.
Oh.
Yeah, in another life, Chris.
Pallet Town is still way more nostalgic than Newbark Town.
Here in Pallet Town, you can go to Red's home and you can actually meet his mom. And apparently she hasn't heard from Red in a long time, but she doesn't seem worried.
Horrible son.
This is also where we find out that Professor Oak's radio station is not broadcasted in Kanto. Apparently it's only broadcasted in the Johto region, which is very funny. Doesn't broadcast in his own home region.
Well, he never said it was his home region. Maybe Johto's his home region, and he was in Pallet Town. I don't know for his own research. Who knows? There's going to be a scandal. Get it trending on Twitter.
heard it first from the trainer trio. So this is where you can talk to Professor Oak. He does mention that he'll give you a gift if you show him all of the 8 Kanto badges. So it looks like we'll have to come back.
How exciting.
Moving into the south, you can now take to the water route to head towards Cinnabar Island.
If you were to stop at the little patch of grass right next to Pallet Town, you can find a Mr. Mime, which I think that's the only place you can catch a Mr. Mime in this game. And I like to believe that's a little nod to the anime where Ash's mom has a Mr. Mime, but can't really confirm that. Other than that, you guys want to jump into Cinnabar Island, or as I like to call it, Cinnabar Tiny Little Rock?
This is where you learn that apparently a volcano erupted, which caused the destruction of Cinnabar Island. And it's been a year since the volcano has erupted.
Isn't that convenient?
You know, it would have been kind of cool to see this volcano, because I don't remember seeing any volcanoes in Kanto, but I guess, you know, seeing just a little rock is good enough.
Use your imagination. Just imagine the volcano is there and it destroyed the island. But there's still a Pokemon Center there, even though there's no trainers.
Well, there is one trainer here, and he is Blue, the rival from Generation 1. And he does mention that he was once a champion, if only for a short time, which we all know is probably like 5 minutes before Red ended up beating him.
It's kind of sad to know, since that's happened, he's never became the champion again. Anyways, he talks to you and flies away. That's about it.
Yeah, kind of a very fun reveal, but kind of short-lived. One other thing about Cinnabar Island, if you guys go to the north and then go a couple steps, what is that, east? There is a hidden rare candy. Other than that, we can go try and find Blaine.
Let's go try and find Blaine.
And apparently he's not on Cinnabar Island or whatever is left of it. He is in the Seafoam Islands next door.
I'm so excited to explore this dungeon because it was really cool in Generation 1.
I know, and now there's a gym trainer in it too. That's so cool. I can't wait to see what amazing puzzle they put inside the Seafoam Islands.
Probably an ice-based puzzle, would you expect?
I mean, but he is a fire trainer. That'd be really cool. Fire and ice, Chris.
And think of all the Pokemon we'll be able to catch on the Seafoam Island. All the ice types.
As it turns out, there's just one cave on the island. And Blaine, he's been homeless for a whole year, living inside Seafoam Island. There's no trainers. There's no quiz. There's no nothing.
It is a small, depressing room, not a cave. You're making it sound better than what it really is, Dustin.
I was going to say, cave is so generous. I think it's 9 tiles big.
If you go into a rocky room, you aren't going to call that a room. It's a cave. It's got rocks around it.
No, he's in a hobbit hole. That's what he's in.
And what makes it even worse is I felt like Blaine was so uneventful in this generation.
Yeah. He only has 3 Pokemon. He has Mascargo 45, which is a new Pokemon, so that's cool to see. Magmar 45 and Rapidash 50.
If he had like more Pokemon, it would be cooler because they're high level.
I mean, this is so disappointing. If you have a water type, even though Magmar does have Thunder Punch, you're going to get through this so quickly. Not to mention, Rapidash, his ace Pokemon, knows Quick Attack and Fury Attack. Like, what are we doing? I was just rushing through the game at this point, so I don't even remember facing Blaine. I think I used 3 surfs and I moved on.
That's exactly what I did.
Same here, and you do receive the Volcano badge after you beat him, and what I thought was funny was the advice guy does show up after you beat him, and if you go to talk to him, he apologizes for missing the battle because he couldn't quite find where the gym was.
I did think that was hilarious. Yeah, he doesn't speak to you, so you're like, who the heck is this guy?
There's only one other thing to do, which is to go back to Viridian to face against the 8th gym leader of Kanto, which is now Blue, the previous rival of Red. I'll just go straight into his team. He has a Pidgeot level 56, Gyarados 58, Executor 58, Alakazam 54, Rhydon 56, and Arcanine level 58. So he does have quite a few Pokemon way higher level than any other trainer we faced so far. So at least one gym leader got some respect.
Yes, he was honestly the one lone bright spot of the gym battles in Kanto. I mean, those are really strong Pokemon at high levels. It's a full team of 6 as well. I had a close battle with him. I really enjoyed it.
I agree. After they kind of turned a lot of Kanto into a joke, I think they respected Blue, gave him a good team. Like Sean said, good Pokemon. Yet again, if you have an answer for a lot of these, it's not too bad. But at the same time, if you don't, this is going to be hard.
I did struggle a little bit. He did take out 2 out of my 5 Pokemon. But after I threw in for Alligator, he ended up winning me the game. You do receive an Earth badge afterwards. And once we beat Blue, that means we have all 8 Kanto badges. So if we go back to Pallet Town and visit Professor Oak, he does give you the ability to go to Mount Silver now. So that's the prize that he gives you. Before we do decide to go back to Johto to tie up some loose ends, I know you guys caught Murkrow last episode, so I decided I want to capture Murkrow. So I went back to Route 16 to capture the Murkrow. And when you're in the items page, you would kind of expect it to always show up on top when you go to Pokeball. But in this case, I wasn't paying attention, and my little item selector was all the way on the bottom. And what I had on the bottom of the Pokeballs was the Master Ball. So I used the Master Ball to capture Murkrow, which is our Pokédex highlight.
And then wait, so what did he use the Master Ball in the first generation too? He was a Poliwag or something like that. It was like for the last episode, you casually mentioned you did it.
This time was not intentional. This was purely by accident. I did not save the game beforehand. I'm like, well, that's my Master Ball. I had to contemplate, do I go back like 30 minutes or an hour? Going into that Pokédex highlight, Murkrow's Pokédex reads, it is said that one chase, it lures its attackers onto dark mountain trails where the foe will get lost. So, very creepy Pokédex string. You do not want to be chased by Murkrow.
Makes it so much better that you caught it in a Master Ball.
When you threw the Master Ball, do you notice how cool the animation was for it?
See, that's the thing is I wasn't paying attention when I used it. I thought it was just a normal Pokeball. Until after I see the text, it's like, no more Master Balls.
If it makes you feel any better, remember how I complained about the low catch rate of Chansey? Well, Murkrow has the same low catch rate of 30, so it was kind of good. Not quite, but kind of.
Let's head back over to Johto to go over some final things before we head into Mount Silver.
All right. Well, if you mentioned when I've got the silver ring, I thought, oh, cool. I get to catch Lugia. Anyways, I go to the Whirl Islands, and time-wise, I don't know the exact time in game it took, but in real life, because I probably play like an hour to like an hour and a half each time I played it. Took 3 days of me playing it and not knowing how to get through Whirl Islands to find Lugia. And I got so fed up that I just looked up on a guide how to find Lugia. So I had no idea how to do it. Even in my notes, I said I feel sorry for Dustin because Whirl Islands suck. I hated it every second of it. Took me forever to figure it out. And then Lugia himself is very difficult to catch.
Did you feint L against him?
So I saved beforehand because I wanted to catch him. And I took multiple attempts. And I started writing down what happened on these attempts because the first time, because it knows recover and all that, it ended up using struggle to kill itself because I couldn't catch it. And the second time, I accidentally critical hit it. And so on the third time around, I was getting fed up and I ended up using my Master Ball. But then I waited a second. I'm like, wait, I want to catch one of the roaming legendaries with this. I'm going to do this legit. So I reset and then I critical hit it 2 more times. It struggled out 1 more time and then 1 more crit. This is now my 7th attempt of Lugia where I did finally catch it.
It was very difficult for me to catch Lugia too.
Yeah, I looked up a very specific video that said fastest way to get to Lugia from the Whirl Islands because I was at the very end of the game when I caught Lugia, so I wasn't messing around anymore. You can also catch a Seadra with your Super Rod, so I did that. And you could trade that Seadra to get a Kingdra, which I could not do because we were no longer trading. And yeah, what Sean was saying, Lugia was really tough. It's only level 60, so it's not quite as strong as in Gold, but it knows the same moves. It knows Gust, it knows Hydro Pump, Rain Dance, Recover. So I also was struggling a little bit, especially with the low catch rate. All these legendaries have a 3 catch rate, which is the hardest. I think this took me 3 attempts to catch. Same story as Sean, where I would try and whittle it down and I'd accidentally KO it or I'd run out of balls. I did catch it though, so yay.
And what level was Lugia?
70 for me.
High level. I guess I could go into the Tin Tower, which I definitely enjoyed this one much more than the Whirlpool Island. It had just some ramps and ladders and teleporters, and it was a lot more straightforward on how to complete this puzzle. Against the level 70 Ho, I did have some trouble. Recover was very frustrating for me. In the first try, I did run out Great Balls, which I only went to this encounter with 20 Great Balls, so I guess it wasn't too much. With the second try, I did actually white out, so I will add that to our whiteout tracker there. I think this might be the episode where I have the most whiteouts, so I guess we'll see how that goes by the end. And then it was the third try that I finally am catching Ho-Oh with 3 Great Balls. And since we didn't go over Ho-Oh's Pokedex, this is our second Pokedex highlight of the episode. His Pokedex reads, a legend says that its body glows in 7 colors. A rainbow is said to form behind it when it flies. And we got to see that rainbow in the first episode of the Pokemon anime.
I still think that's one of the coolest things they did was show Ho-Oh.
How was your experience?
It was good. I agree that it was a lot cooler than the Whirl Islands. I actually wasn't expecting it to be as long as it was. It was pretty long for you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought this, because I'm pretty sure it's the exact same in Crystal as it is in Gold and Silver, but I thought that you would just take one little ramp up and you'd be on the rooftop, but no, that was not the case. And there was also a lot of good items too, which I thought was fun. But the one thing that I thought was a missed opportunity was there's around 9 floors or something. And why didn't we make it so maybe some of the top floors, even if this was in Crystal, why couldn't we have the top floors have some high level Pokemon?
Chris, are you asking for a high level Pokemon in Generation 2 in the wild? You sound insane right now, Chris.
Anyways, Ho-Oh was actually much easier. It only took me 2 attempts, and the first time was just because I think I was rushing through the game and I needed to go somewhere. So I said, I'm going to pause this attempt. So I just turned off the game, rebooted it, and I caught Ho-Oh in 2 Ultra Balls. Ho-Oh was easy. Lugia was much harder. Considering that I also needed to catch some other legendaries to get here, this was much appreciated.
I guess we should head into those other legendaries. So there's, for Chris, 2 additional roaming dogs. And then for me and Sean, there's all 3 legendary dogs that are roaming. Let's start with Sean. How did you do it? Did you actually capture the legendary dogs?
I knew I wanted to catch one. At this time, I am exhausted. I want to get through this game. So I decided I was just going to try and catch whichever one I could find. And I encountered a Suicune. And I was just like, all right, you're the one. And I threw my Master Ball and I called it a day.
That's very nice. Yeah, without my Master Ball, decided to try and do it the hard way, the way that Chris is probably going to be doing it. And after 1 hour of trying to do some strats, I gave up. I did not capture a single roaming legendary.
Okay, so I guess if you guys are paying attention and you know how to get Ho-Oh and Crystal, you know that you have to catch every single legendary dog to be able to catch Ho-Oh. So before going to the Tin Tower, I had already caught Suicune because in Crystal, that is a normal encounter that is part of the story. So that was already caught. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on podcast, but I had already encountered Entei earlier in the game. So that one was a little easier. In case you guys don't know how the roaming legendaries work in this gen, they almost always go to an adjacent route every time that you switch routes. Every so often, though, however, it will just randomly jump to a random route just somewhere else on the map. Basically, if you can corner it. So I tried doing this strat. I trained up a Jinx to level 40 and gave it 10 Carboses, so it was super fast. It knew Lovely Kiss, it knew Mean Look, it knew everything so that it couldn't run away. And I found Entei first because I had this level 40 Jinx. I used Repel and was able to finally find it after cornering it, use my Master Ball. That's Entei. Finding Raikou was a different story because the only thing you can really do now is fly back and forth between Mahogany and I believe it's Violet City. And the reason you do that is because the game pays attention if you're hopping between the same 2 routes, and the Pokemon will never come to you if you do that. So instead, you have to fly between the 2 cities and then go into the next route and just keep going in a circle until it finally comes to you. So after around an hour, I found it and it did run away from me. Ugh. At this point, I was able to find it on the map, do the other strategy. It took over an hour to find it, but found it, put it to sleep, whittled it down. I caught it. I caught all 3 dogs.
Good job, Chris.
Woo!
Are you guys ready to head into Mount Silver?
Let's do it, crew.
You know, even before we get to Mount Silver, can we talk about how kind of frustrating it is how to get to Mount Silver? Because I was at this point going through Johto, but to get to Mount Silver, I had to go all the way back to Kanto, then fly to the Indigo Plateau. Why did Gen 2 do this? This is just so ridiculous.
And I mean, you do have to turn on the power in Kanto before you can start using the train from Saffron to Goldenrod City. Otherwise, you're relying on the SS and...
Anyways, though, once you go back to the Indigo Plateau, you would then have to go through Victory Road, which is not too bad if you have repels, and then you can get back to the gate. If you go through the western portion of the gate, you get to the route that gives you Mount Silver now.
And I guess just starting off, I can't believe the final endgame cave requires you to use Splash if you want to go inside it.
I had the same reaction, especially because, there's going to be someone strong here. So we have all our strongest Pokemon. And you're telling me we have to give one of them Flash to waste one of their moves on Flash?
You can do what I did.
And what was that?
I just looked up a map on Bulbapedia and followed it in the dark.
Oh, wow.
I did the same thing, Chris.
You both cheated? I'm disappointed in both of you guys.
We have to win.
I couldn't use Flash.
Especially because right now, Chris has a chance to tie in our Johto battles. I can't let that stand.
Well, I gave my Ampharos Flash.
Mount Silver is actually a lot smaller than I thought it would be, which is not surprising saying that out loud. However, there are a lot of good items you can get. Well, hold on. Crystal will give you a lot of good items, like calcium. You can get an Ultra Ball, a protein, another Ultra Ball. Sorry, I'll carry on. There's some cool Pokemon that you can find here as well. Like, this is the first time in Gold and Silver that you can find Larvitar.
Larvitar is the final Pokédex highlight of this episode. His Pokédex reads, is born deep underground. It can't emerge until it has entirely consumed the soil around it. And I never imagined it as a Pokemon being born underground. So that was just very fascinating for me to read.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorites, but I didn't even catch one. I couldn't find one because at this point in time, I was just so dead. I know we definitely already mentioned this, but there's just so many cool Pokemon in Mount Silver that we just don't get to encounter until the quite literal end game. Because there's a Larvitar, there's Sneasel, there's Mischievous as well, the second ghost Pokemon ever that you don't get access to the very end of the game. You don't even know exists until this point.
I did not encounter one either, so I was very bummed out about that. But literally at this point, I was done with it. I wasn't trying to look for those items or trying to really encounter Pokemon. I was just trying to finish it.
Same. Lucky for me, I could already get a Larvitar. I was able to get it from one of the game corners, and it's caught at level 40. So I gave it one rare candy. It evolved into a Pupitar, but I was not going to consider raising it to 55 to get Tyranitar. Absolutely not.
Finally, after exploring Mount Silver, you see a sprite, a human being at the very top of this mountain, and you talk to him, and he does not say a single word. And then you see who he is. It is Red, the protagonist from the first game. You are quite literally fighting yourself in this new iteration 3 years later, and Red has a team. Red has a level 81 Pikachu to start, level 73 Espeon, a level 75 Snorlax, a level 77 Venusaur, 77 Charizard, and 77 Blastoise. Now, if you notice, I was saying 70 a lot. These are some very strong Pokemon. Well, all of them are very strong Pokemon, except the first one, Pikachu. But Pikachu's level 81, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I understood that well from last generation. There's only so much you can do with the Pikachu. Going into this, we did ask Chris, what should our level cap be? Because we did want to try and have similar levels And we decided 55 would be our goal. So about 25 levels under most of Red's Pokemon. And with that, I would say, let's go over our Pokemon Party final levels. I can start. We had Admiral Tot, the Feraligatr, level 55. Admiral Chomp. If you do notice, Admiral Chomp, he used to be Captain Chomp, so he did get promoted. The Girafarig, level 55. Fanny, the Donphan, level 55. Gengar, Rear Admiral Scar, level 56. And I do have 2 new Pokemon I decided to carry with me. You would know the Murkrow that I caught with the Master Ball. I was like, since I did, I do have to take him all the way. He is now the Fleet Admiral Master Midnight, because I do need a dark type Pokemon to carry on Umbreon's legacy of Midnight. And he's level 55. And I did take one of the Pokemon Chris traded me a long time ago. Rory, the now Arcanine, level 56. So Arcanine has replaced Rapidash on my team. I always loved Arcanine and really wanted to use him at least once.
He's a very cool and strong Pokemon. So I'll just say I'm already last in Pokemon battles. I was getting really done with this generation. I didn't get all my Pokemon to level 55.
Which was crazy when I heard that.
Yeah, I was ready. I didn't want to keep on playing anymore, and I knew I could win without having them all level 55. So without further ado, I have Rocky the Steelix at level 54, Darkness the Umbreon at level 54, Cinder the Typhlosion at level 54, Thinker the Slowking at level 55, Milker the Milk Tank at level 55, and finally Pika Fluff the Ampharos at level 55.
3 of your Pokemon are not level 55. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I just gave up.
And so I trained up all of my Pokemon to level 55, and none of them actually leveled up during the battle. So that means they're all level 55, and they were Teddy the Teddiursa. No, Teddy the Ursaring, ESPN the Espeon, Chica the Meganium, Maggie the Magmar, Shucks the Shuckle, which did make it to the final battle and contributed, and Wagyu the Politoed, of course.
So I'm the only one who decided to take 2 new Pokemon into the Spinal League.
Only one crazy enough.
Yeah, when did you decide to add them to your party? Like, were you using them throughout this entire Kanto run?
I was using Growlithe after the Elite Four. I didn't want to use them until after I got the Firestone. And then I got the Firestone, leveled them up. And then Murkrow was just after I used the Master Ball. I'm like, I have to use them now. There's no way I could just put them in my box. And because also, like, Heracross, I didn't really want to use him further because I know in our battles, I just had no idea how to use Heracross. So I think before we go into the details of our battles against Red, let's just go over how many tries it took you guys and if you had any whiteouts. I can start. It took me 4 tries to beat Red, which means I white out 3 times.
It took me 3 tries, so I whited out twice.
And I had 3 attempts as well, so I whited out twice.
Oh man, so I was the weakest one. I whited out 4 times this episode.
I mean, I'm sure I'll hear your story, but you kind of need some luck to win this battle.
Maybe because they're Pokemon at level 55.
I told you it was possible at 55. I didn't say it was easy. So the way that I won the battle was very similar to how the first battle went, except with one key detail, which was I got to the very end on my first try. I believe I had 3 Pokemon left, or more like 2.5. One of them was weakened. And his last Pokemon was Charizard. So he takes out one of my Pokemon because Charizard is really fast. And that leaves me with a Politoed, and I can't even remember what the last Pokemon was. But Charizard versus Politoed. I'm ready to win this on my first attempt. I throw out Rain Dance because I'm afraid of his flamethrower being very strong. Well, it doesn't matter because he uses Wing Attack, and I realize that this is going to take out about half of my HP. It was a little less, but it was extremely strong. So I now realize, oh shoot, he's faster than me, and I don't think I can get him down in one single surf. So I throw out a Confuse Ray and pray for the best. It does not hit itself in Confusion. So now I'm down to my last move. It needs to hit itself in Confusion. It does not. It takes down my Politoed. I can't remember what my last Pokemon was, but it clearly went down really quickly. And I was really upset because I had 2.5 Pokemon left, including a type advantage. And I blew it and lost. And then attempt 2 was me rushing through it, and I had way worse luck. And I think I did get to his final Pokemon, which was Blastoise, but all I had left was Magmar, which obviously didn't stand a chance, so lost that one as well.
How did you win, Chris?
So it was kind of interesting. So with Pikachu, that's who we started off with on mine. And so I started off with Ursaring because it knew Earthquake and it could one-shot it. And so what kept happening the first 2 times was Pikachu hit Charm and lowered the attack of Ursaring, which wasn't a big deal, but it means I couldn't one-shot it anymore. And especially the second time, Pikachu hit a Thunder on me. And that Thunder actually is pretty strong when it comes from a level 81 Pokemon. The third time, the winning time, it uses Charm, but there's a 25% chance of it missing in Gen 2, so it misses. And so I use Earthquake, get rid of Pikachu. He sends out Espeon, and I use Return, which is able to get rid of about half of Espeon's health. And then Espeon's still able to take out Ursaring. But then I switch out to my Espeon because that's the best resistance I have, plus my Espeon knows Bite. So from there, I'm able to get rid of his Espeon. He then throws out Snorlax. He takes out my Espeon. And this is why, right here, why I can't record my battle or post it, is because in every attempt to beat Snorlax, I had to throw out my Shuckle. And it was the most boring battle I've ever done in my life. Because Snorlax knows Rest, as does my Shuckle. So it was just over and over again of using Toxic, Rollout, Rest, and we were just going in circles because the AI is pretty smart about using Rest when you use Toxic against it. So I think I actually got him to the point where he had lost all of his PP of Body Slam and Snore, but it worked. Shuckle did something. That's how I got rid of Snorlax, because that Snorlax is a beast, and I needed a Pokemon with extremely high defense to get rid of it. And then he brings out his Blastoise. He uses one Blizzard and it misses. So this is where I mentioned where you really need luck, because now I've had luck on 2 things, on Charm missing and Blizzard missing. So I'm able to get rid of him with a couple of Giga Drains. Then he brings out Venusaur, which yet again, I'm able to keep kind of attacking and using Body Slam and chipping away at him. So he gets rid of Chica eventually, switch out to Maggie. Maggie's his Flamethrower, Venusaur. Down the last Charizard. I use Confuse Ray, but he takes me down without any type of confusion. So I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I just use Surf 2 times against Charizard, and I win.
Good job, Chris.
I learned from my mistakes, and I got lucky, but I think that's kind of how you have to beat Red in this scenario.
Against Snorlax, he was definitely one of the toughest Pokemon for my party to face, and I don't think you guys are going to like how I end up beating him. The first 2 tries was when I realized I have a problem with Snorlax, because a lot of my Pokemon can't really deal any damage to him, and he just deals massive damage. By my 3rd try was when I finally took him down, but then Blastoise was the one that swept my team. So I had to go in with a very targeted way to attack. And so I used Donphan to start to take out Pikachu with Earthquake, and he would switch into Venusaur. So I switched to Arcanine to take him out, and then he switched to Espeon. So this is where I got to use Murkrow and Dark type. And then he switched to Blastoise. I basically used Thunder Punch to take out Blastoise, and this is when he threw in Snorlax. And through my first 3 tries, I always went to Snorlax until that 3rd try, I found my strategy. My strategy was to have Gengar out there because he can't deal any damage to Gengar. And then to basically have Gengar use every move until Gengar can start using Struggle. So I used Struggle on my Gengar to take out the Snorlax because I needed to wait for him to use all of his recover moves.
I'm not surprised, and it's not that much different from me stalling him with the Shuckle.
Yeah. So after that, he sent out Charizard, and I was able to send out Feraligatr for the win. So it was about a 2-hour ordeal because I literally used that full Struggle on the 3rd try and then died, and then had to do another try, my 4th try, doing the Struggle.
That sounds horrible. Oh my god.
So it was just Snorlax that you really struggled with.
I mean, I struggled with Blastoise early on because I think I used Gengar too early and he would keep fainting. So it wasn't until I realized, okay, I need to save Gengar for Blastoise. That's what really helped with that last run.
I think it's really cool how just both of you guys with going through Red is very much you go through the first time and then you learn and you change up your strategy a little bit. So that's exactly what I had to do against Red. So the first time, Pikachu, easy. I just have my Steelix, can't do anything, one Earthquake down. Espeon, again, very easy. I just switch into Umbreon, can't really do much to my Umbreon, takes it down. And that's when he always goes to Snorlax. And just like both of you guys, Snorlax was a problem for me. The first time around, I didn't realize how much of a problem he would be. Because my first attempt was I gave my Toxic to my Umbreon. And so I tried to Toxic stall it out. But that's when he would do the rest and it gets rid of the poison. I was able to do that for a little bit. And then I decided to send in Milk Tank. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just do a couple defense curls to get his defense up and just keep on returning until I got my defense high enough to where I can try a rollout, with Milk Drink also and the leftovers to keep it alive. But the first time I send out my Milk Tank, I use a defense curl and I get critical hit one shot on a body slam. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do now. And so I lose. Snorlax wipes the rest of my team. Now, going into attempt 2, it's really funny. I'm looking at my notes and there's a lot of hate, just like the word hate I wrote out because I was not having a good time. But anyways, took out Pikachu. I did the same strategy again to take out his first 2 Pokemon easy. Now for Snorlax, I kept my Umbreon out there and did enough chip damage until he went to rest to switch in my Milk Tank so it wouldn't get one shot when I could do a defense curl. I did eventually just get some chip damage, but Milk Tank did eventually faint, and then I had to send in my Steelix, which is still so crazy that Snorlax did so much damage to my Steelix, which is a high defense Steel-type Pokemon. I was barely able to take out his Snorlax this time around, but I did lose my Milk Tank and my Umbreon in the process. Anyways, he then sends out Venusaur, and then I just use an Earthquake, and I get taken down, switch into my Typhlosion, takes him down. And then he goes into Blastoise. I kind of panicked. What I should have done here, my Typhlosion knows Thunder Punch, but I panicked and I swapped directly into my Slowking because I figured that Slowking would have the best chance into Blastoise. But Blastoise did a lot of damage with its Surf, and it was too much damage. Slowking couldn't do anything. He got taken down, and then his Blastoise just finished off my team. I realized where I messed up, and I just hoped I could get back to that process because taking down Snorlax was very hard. Third attempt, first 2 Pokemon, easy strategy. This time around, I still wanted to do a somewhat similar strategy, but he did too much damage on my Umbreon, so I had to switch out to my Milk Tank. And what do you know? He again critical hits, one-shots my Milk Tank. And so at this point, I kind of am giving up on this third attempt. I think it's over. I send out my Steelix against his Snorlax. He was resting. And I was just decided to use Iron Tail because Iron Tail, it doesn't hit all the time, but it has a chance also to lower the defense. And I'm like, the only way I could win this is if I get some lucky defense drops. And I did. I didn't miss. I think I hit 4 Steel Tails in a row, which was insane. And I got 1 defense drop, which was just enough to finally take down his Snorlax. Then it continues the Venusaur. I do the same thing. Get my Typhlosion out there, takes it out. Blastoise this time around, I use a Thunder Punch, which is just enough chip damage to take down his Blastoise. And then he sends out Charizard. And I'm a little ashamed to say this, but I decided to use a full restore on my Thinker, my Slowking, in order to get to full health and take down the Charizard. Because I didn't know how lucky I would be able to get a next time around to take down a Snorlax to beat him.
Yeah, that Snorlax is a beast on his team. It took us all different types of strategies just to beat it. But we all beat Snorlax, took some time. I did enjoy the battle, even though it took a while, because it really took some thinking after how easy Kanto was. It was so nice to have a real final boss to beat. And who knows, maybe it did make it even more difficult for us when we had Pokemon that were around 55. And that was quite fun. Pokestats. All right, so we'll go Sean, Chris, and then me for playtime.
My playtime, which I was very happy about getting this playtime, was 49 hours and 52 minutes because I wanted to have under 50 hours.
Wow, just barely.
Playtime was 61 hours and 46 minutes.
Wow, that is quite a jump too. I had 75 hours and 57 minutes. Wow, so Chris actually played the most since our last episode. Chris played 13 hours and 30 minutes. I played 13 hours. And Sean played 7 hours and 30 minutes.
Sean rushed through it.
He did.
Let's see. With our new graphs, I'm able to see this was actually the most me and Chris played any episode.
Wow.
That is a lot.
I mean, for me, it wasn't even any of the gym leaders. I probably beat that in 2 hours. It was probably another 11 hours of catching Pokemon, catching legendaries, and training Pokemon.
All right. So let's move on to the Pokédex.
All right. I caught a grand total whopping 64 Pokemon.
That's pretty good. I caught 140 Pokemon, so I caught more than double Sean's.
I caught 179 Pokemon.
Wow.
Dustin, you almost caught up.
Oh, no way. I'm like 30 away.
That's close.
That's so much, Chris.
And I was going for more, but I got so tired, I just had to beat it.
So Sean caught the same amount last episode as he did this episode with 6. I caught 18, and Chris caught a whopping 45. That is actually the most Pokemon anyone has caught in one episode. I had the previous record with episode 5 of the first season. That was the Safari Zone. I had a little under 40. So good job, Chris, on that.
Ugh. Thank you. And I will not be repeating that in Gen 3.
What? Chris, you have to. You're both doing it.
That's exactly how I feel after the first generation. When I call the Pokemon, I'm like, I did it. All right. So the average Pokemon party levels that we gained since our last episode, Chris has the most at 15. I had the second most at 12.3, and then Sean with the least at 9.5. And of course, all of our parties are averaging around 55. And now we can go over total whiteouts too. Chris had the most whiteouts at 6. I went up to second place with 5. And then Sean had the least with 4 whiteouts.
Still the Pokemon Master.
Let's head into the Johto Battles. So here's our standings in the final Johto Battles before we end Season 2. So I am in first with 11 wins and 7 losses. Chris is in second with 9 wins and 9 losses. And Sean is currently in last with 7 wins and 11 losses. And currently it's still any man's game. If Chris or Sean win 2 games, then they will go into a final third match. And with that, we'll start off with me versus Sean.
I'm going to announce like Pokemon Stadium announcer.
Better hear some enthusiasm, Chris.
A strong battle between 2 great trainers.
That's exactly how he talks, too.
Leftovers.
On Darkness.
Yep.
Oh, what's good against Dark? I keep forgetting.
Can't help you there, sorry. You have to know by the end of Season 2.
I don't.
It's been badly poisoned.
Oh, no.
Oh,
crit.
A crit. I hope... Nope, not speaking.
That Leftovers is quite strong, huh?
Yep.
Best held item in the game, there's 2 of them.
I saw I have 2 on my team.
And the attack misses yet again.
What? So much health gain.
You're gonna feel real pain this time around, Dustin. I'm not losing.
We'll see about that.
It falls to the poison.
I do not like your announcing, Chris.
Just remember that, like, everything is resisted by steel.
Even Dark in this generation was just stupid.
Alright, Gengar, it's all on you now.
Oh, I forgot about his Gengar. All right. For the recap of the first match of the night, it was me against Dustin. So at this point in time, everyone is now using a full team of 6. So we're showing off our final teams from Johto. So everyone has some very strong Pokemon. I will just say the MVP for me in this match was my Umbreon Darkness, because my strategy was to use Toxic and then to stall either by using Moonlight or its leftovers as well, so that Dustin couldn't take it down and just get as many of Dustin's Pokemon poisoned by Toxic as possible. And so for those in the audience who do not know what Toxic does, it basically is a poison type move that badly poisons the Pokemon that gets affected. There's 2 different status afflictions when it comes to poison. There's a normal poisoning and then badly poison. And I don't remember the exact percentage, but basically if you are just normally poisoned, I want to say it's like 5 to 6% of damage you take each turn, but that stays the same. Whereas if you're badly poisoned, it kind of snowballs with the percentage keeps on adding up to each other until your Pokemon's just taking huge chunks of its HP as damage. So my whole strategy was to send Umbreon out, poison all of Dustin's Pokemon, and swap around. And I was able to sweep Dustin without losing a single Pokemon.
The double leftover strat was difficult. I can't really do anything.
Yeah, I had leftovers on my Umbreon and then the second leftovers on my Milk Tank, so it was very overpowered, I won't lie.
Good luck, Chris. This is your only chance. Next matchup is Chris vs Sean. This is a high stakes match for Chris. Oh, Oshucks versus Milkers, the Milk Tank.
I predicted that.
Did you? Then why'd you use Toxic, Chris? Oh, the critical hit! Screw your Pallet Town.
That's your strongest by far. Flinch.
30% chance.
Oh, you gotta be careful of his Umbreon.
Yep, you already know what I'm gonna do here, Chris. What are you gonna do? Oh, I did not mean to click roll out.
Oh, he's locked in.
This is the chance, Chris. Does the Sleep Talk, it just uses a random move?
It uses one move that's not it, as long as the Pokemon's asleep.
Aha!
A critical hit? Dang. Oh, yeah, I predicted that.
Oh,
see?
Smart.
That's what should happen when you predict, Chris.
Come on, I want to attack.
Oh, you thought too much, Chris.
I did. I need some luck here.
Smokescreen, save me. Smokescreen, save me. Yes! Yes!
No.
Smokescreen, save me.
Really?
Oh, good job there. 2 more Pokemon left.
For the second match of the night, it was me versus Chris, and there's a lot of stakes here. Basically, I needed to win in order to try and not go in last place. Chris wants me in last place because I've been talking a lot of smack to him. Anyways, it was very much a chess match between me and Chris. A lot of switching, a lot of predicting who's going to switch, and failed predictions and correct predictions. It was a 50-round match, so it went pretty long. But at the end of the day, Chris's Ursaring is just very strong, and I had difficulty taking him down. And then I also had difficulty taking down Chris's Espeon because my Umbreon and my Milk Tank, 2 of my strongest Pokemon, both got taken down by Chris's Ursaring. I was in somewhat of a disadvantage when that happened, and I just was not able to reclaim that advantage with Chris pulling off some smart switches to have resisted damage on a couple of my last moves, which was able to allow Chris to eventually clutch it out and win, and unfortunately place me in last.
I will say, once you get to the end of the game and the strategies become leftovers, healing moves, toxics, it almost becomes a lot less fun.
Definitely. And it's sad because those are like the strongest, most viable strategies for this generation as well. It's just not a fun way to play Pokemon.
Yeah, I didn't even know about these strats.
We got toxic in the last episode. Did you teach it to any of your Pokemon?
I did not. Okay, so moving to our final matchup, me versus Chris, and we'll have to see if fate will repeat itself, because last time Chris beat me on the first run and we went to our very first tiebreaker. It can be the case again if Chris beats me this time. We'll head into a tiebreaker for the win instead of for second place.
Oh, the Earthquake. Critical hit.
Whoa. Oh, wait, why did I switch out? That's super effective. Oh my god, and it missed. Oh my god.
Yeah, wait, why did you use me? Look. So, and does this switch out?
He can't swap out, right?
Now that you moved your Pokemon out, yes, you can.
Oh, that was the strategy, obviously.
I ain't playing around anymore.
Chris threw too many times against you this season.
Well, come on. Not getting the luck when I want to. I didn't really do that strategy, right? That's okay.
I didn't do any strategy, right?
All right, and now for the third and final match of the night between Dustin and Chris, and a fight for who will be the Pokemon champion of Generation 2. Now, this match, Dustin led with his Gengar, Chris led with his Shuckle, and at first it kind of just looked like Chris was gonna sweep it, Chris really was able to play the type advantages well. His Pokemon have a lot of good coverage moves. And now when I use that term coverage, that just means that a Pokemon has moves that help it fight against a variety of different types, but more specifically against Pokemon that it would have normal difficulty to fight against if it just used the moves of its type. A good example in this fight was Chris's Politoed knows the move Ice Punch going up against Dustin's Murkrow, which Ice is very effective against flying. And so he's able to take down Dustin's Murkrow with almost no issue when he had his Politoed in because of that coverage move. Basically, a lot of Chris's Pokemon have some great coverage moves that allow them to be effective against a lot of different types. And Dustin just was unfortunately not able to come back once when Chris got the early advantage. So it looks like we are going into match 4 of the night, the final match for the winner of Gen 2.
I don't know how this keeps happening, Chris.
Second season in a row, going into overtime.
All right, let's see how it goes.
See, like, some very late advice. A good coverage move for a Froligator would have been like an ice move here, Dustin, because then you would have been able to attack this grass type for at least one move that's super effective compared to having only neutral. Oh, the Paralyze.
Wow, you got lucky there.
Oh, it does have Ice Punch. It has coverage. Why is Arcanime's name just Rory and not like Lieutenant or...
I have 2 trade Pokemon from Chris that I'm using, the Fanny and Rory.
So Chris, why is his name Rory?
Roars. Oh, that's... Oh, that...
Oh, Earthquake's super effective because of the poison. Keep forgetting that.
Because then also in later generations, Gengar has an ability where it's not affected by Earth types too.
That's what I need.
Yep, that doesn't come until Gen 3.
In the words of Dua Lipa, he's levitating. Oh! Oh, extreme speed critical hit.
Oh!
Smart. That was good. This is the theme song, Pokemon Johto. It's a whole new place to see. It's a whole new place with a brand new attitude. Ah, that was supposed to win. And be the best that you can be. That's smart.
Murkrow, that is
I should
smart.
have done that previously.
He's learning.
Learning as I go.
I swear my Teddy Ursa's attack is 184. I swear that's not cheating.
No, Ursaring has been a problem.
See, that's the problem. Is like a ghost type is good against it, but then if you have Earthquake, it covers it. And the only other defense is a fighting type. But none of us have had fighting type Pokemon.
Just had a hair cross for a couple seconds. Now going into the official last match of the Gen 2 playthrough. The Johto champion will be crowned after this. It was the rematch of Dustin versus Chris. This time they switched up their starting Pokemon, with Dustin starting with his Froligator and Chris starting with his Espeon. Chris was able to swap out very strategically. I think Chris's MVP in all the Pokemon, honestly, in this generation, was his Ursaring, because his Ursaring was so strong. Even up against Dustin, Ursaring did almost the most work in getting the most damage down on Dustin's Pokemon. Unfortunately, Dustin just wasn't able to come back when Chris got the advantage on him.
Woo! Woo! That means I am the champion!
Good job. You came back from way back there. Yeah, it's definitely difficult. That Politoed was very strong, and similar to my battles with Sean, I just can't find the pace with this final team that I had.
I like to believe I played the long game. I know you guys made fun of Shuckle, who didn't even make an appearance this battle. Useful team member.
I don't believe that. Even against me, he didn't do anything.
He took out your last Pokemon, I think.
Yes, but you didn't have to. You could have sent anyone out there.
Now to count our final standings, so Chris is the champion with 12 wins and 9 losses. I'm in second with 11 wins and 10 losses. And Sean is in last with 8 wins and 12 losses.
Congrats to Chris. The final note I want to say is that Chris, who, not even arguably, he does have the worst starter of this generation, was able to win the Johto Battles.
I had a bit of an advantage too, because Crystal gave me the opportunity to get Poliwag really early and Teddy Ursa really early, which I don't think you guys had that opportunity. So I'll take the Crystal advantage as well.
No, my early game stretch just really got me. I was not expecting you to have a Poliwag on your team and to not even use your Chikorita for the first 2 matches really screwed me over.
That's the advice. Don't ever use Chikorita. So does that mean I get to pick my starter for Gen 3?
You do.
That's a tough decision.
That brings us to close to one of our final episodes of the season. So if you would like to see the stats of the season, you can find them on Twitter at the Trainer Trio. And if you would like to let us know how we're doing, or if you have any stories of your own you'd like to let us know throughout Johto, you can email us at thetrainertriopodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like to catch that commentary by Chris, being the Elite Four, you can find that on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, our next episode will be our final episode of Season 2, where we will be reviewing the Gen 2 games and just reviewing our journey throughout the Johto region. So looking forward to that. Otherwise, after our next episode, we will be taking a break, and hopefully we'll see you guys sometime after that. Until next time, we are the Trainer Trio signing off. Catch you in that final episode of the season, trainers.
So before going to the Tin Tower, I'm going to speed up the story because this took me so long to do. I caught all 3 dogs. I hope Dustin edits that out to be about 1 sentence. I caught all the dogs.
That's too funny.